कालचं फक्त नाही, बाकी कोणतंच नाही, फक्त ते काढ दे मला.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Start. Okay, we can start now.
Can I now start? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all in today's session of this Nagpur National Faculty Development Program on research methodology on behalf of our Kamla Nehru Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur. Myself, Dr. Suresh Uppalwar, Professor, Department of Physics, Kamla Nehru Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur. We are organizing such type of faculty development program on research methodology since last 3 years continuously. The objective of this national FDP on research methodology is to enhance the abilities of faculty members and research scholars to carry out their research, how to write research proposals and research papers for publication in reputed journals. Today is the 5th day of this national level online faculty development program on research methodology. It is started from 24th June and tomorrow is the last day of this FDP. It is my immense pleasure to welcome our patrons on this occasion. I welcome Honorable Dr. Srimati Suhasini Vanjari, President Amar Seva Mandal, Nagpur, whose guidance and blessings are always remains with us. I would like to welcome Honorable Advocate Abhijit Vanjari, MLC Maharashtra and Secretary Amar Seva Mandal, Nagpur, whose dynamic leadership always gives us constant inspiration to arrange such type of programs. I welcome Honorable Dr. Smita Vanjari, Senate Member, Management Council, RTM, Nagpur University, and Treasurer, Amar Seva Mandal, Nagpur, who always remain with us. Now I welcome our principal, Dr. Dilip Badwaik sir, for his cooperation in organizing this faculty development program. I would like to welcome today's resource person, Professor M. Swaminathan, retired professor, Annamalai University, Tamil Nadu. I also welcome here the convener of this faculty development program, Professor Dr. Vasudev Gurnole, Department of Chemistry, Kamla Nehru Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur. I also welcome you, all the academicians, participants from various institutions of various places of India. Now, I would like to give a brief introduction of today's speaker, Professor M. Swaminathan. Professor Swaminathan is retired professor from Annamalai University, Tamil Nadu. He was the chairman of organic chemistry and presently is visiting professor at Nanomaterial Laboratory, International Research Center and Education, which is deemed university. He did PhD from IIT Kanpur. He has 40 years experience of teaching. Professor Swaminathan has 42 years research experience and published more than 248 research papers in different reputed journals. He has written 8 book chapters in edited books published by Elsewhere and Springer publications. His citation are 10,522, H index 54, and I-10 index 144. He is the fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry and member of American Chemical Society. He received awards like Tamil Nadu Scientist Award in 2008, Silver Medal Award 2005 from ISCAS, and lead guest editor. He was editor for 3 years of special issues, International Journal of Photo Energy. I ensure that this session will be fruitful for everyone present here online, especially for young researchers. Today's topic of this session is open access publications and scientific paper writing. Now, I invite Professor Swaminathan to share his knowledge to us. Thank you. Sir Swaminathan, sir, over
Yes, sir.
to you.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
I'll share the screen. So the screen is visible now. Hello.
Yeah. Now, yes.
The screen is visible now.
Visible now, sir. Yes.
Okay. Okay. It's audible. I mean that.
Yeah. You are audible.
Okay. Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I thank Dr. Suresh for his nice introduction. It's my pleasure to thank the authorities of Kamla Nehru Mahavidyalaya, Nagpur, and also the principal of Kamla Nehru Mahavidyalaya, and particularly the organizers and my friend Dr. Gurnale for giving an opportunity to give a lecture on open access publications and scientific paper writing. So research methodology is very important, and basically in the research methodology, the publications play a vital role. So today we are going to see the open access publications, and most of the publications today are open access publications. All the journals, they go for open access because they are able to get money and then publish the papers. So even the authors also not reluctant to pay the money for the papers. So most of the journals, they publish open access publications. So there's actually the open access publications has become very important nowadays. And we will see something about the scientific paper writing. So as he introduced, I was a retired professor from Annamalai University. After retirement, I was there as a CSR emeritus for 5 years. Then later I joined as a visiting and an emeritus professor at the Kalasalingam Academy of Research and Education, and it is a deemed university situated about 60 kilometers south of Tamil Nadu. I know, Krishnan Goyal or Srivilliputtur is a famous temple town. There, this university is located. See, the location is a beautiful location. You can see in the slide. And the university is completely surrounded by the mountains. Actually, the mountains are called the Podigai Mountains. And that is why one express is running from Chennai to this place is called the Podigai Express. So this, is an environmentally very nice location. And in this university, we have an international research center and also nanomaterials laboratory where I am put up for research as a research advisor. So still I am continuing only because of this environment in that Kalasalingam University. And today we will see something about this open access publications and scientific paper writing. Actually, Kamla Nehru Mahavidyalaya, I visited, even in 2007, my first visit was in 2007. Later, I visited so many times. I came to Nagpur, the orange city, and enjoyed our trip to the Nagpur city. So it is a nice place. And this is not, your institution is not new to me because it's a very familiar to me and I have been there so many times. So thank you very much once again giving me an opportunity for delivering a lecture on these open access publications and scientific paper writing. We see that the publications, they play a vital role of a research career. And the research starts from choosing the problem, working on the problem, publishing the work. So suppose if a research scholar joined for PhD, first thing that he has to choose a problem. Basically, he requires three vital things. One is literature survey, another one is collecting the publication, then fixing the problem. So literature survey, that 3 decades back, it takes about minimum of 6 months. 1979, when I joined IIT, I took about 6 months for doing the literature survey, going through the chemical abstract and journals and collecting the literature. It takes a lot of time. And that is essential anyway. And collecting the publications, because before you start the work, unless you collect the related publications, you cannot initiate the research. So you require a basic knowledge about the research. And for that, you require the publications of that in the particular field. And then after that, you have to fix a problem after discussion with the supervisor. These are the 3 main things required for choosing the problem for the PhD or research. And in IITs, that there are so many formalities. And even for 2 years, you will not be allowed to enter the lab. You have the coursework, comprehensive and other things. Then depending on the nature of the work, and a minimum of 7 years are required for completing the PhD. But present situation is entirely different. As far as the research scholars are concerned, once they join PhD, they have the direct entry to the research. So they directly enter to the lab and then start doing the research. And another thing is it's not necessary to choose a problem because most of the supervisors, they assign a problem to the student and the work to be done. So the student didn't have much, take much effort in choosing the problems. And particularly if you join a project, it is still easier because the results of the project becomes a part of your thesis. So it can be mainly used for your PhD thesis. So nowadays that literature survey is very, very using the research search tools, and basic and essential requirement is to collect the literature and publications related to your work before starting the work. And this gives an idea about the nature of the work done and work to be done and adopted methods in the field. This is very, very essential because when you write an introduction, these all these things are required. The information will be very, very useful while writing the introduction of your thesis as well as introduction of the paper in the publications. So this is one of that, you can see this is one of the IIT library. Actually one floor is entirely occupied by the chemical abstract. Another floor may be by the journals. So likewise, nearly more than 50 to 60% of the space will be occupied by the chemical abstract and the journals. And then the book comes. So, but you have to go through the chemical abstract and search the journals and get that paper and take notes of the paper, and by that way you have to collect the literature before starting the or initiating your research work. But the new world of access to the knowledge is very, very simple. Just a laptop is more than sufficient. Take the laptop, have internet, and then immediately you can sit in the lawn or even park, and then you can collect the literature, and it will not take much time. Maybe in a few weeks you can complete the literature survey. So here you can see that here's the problem. I mean, publications are very, very important. People think that publications are important only after completing the work, but not only that, even before the work also publications are important, but it is much more important as soon as you complete a quantum of work. See, because one should think of publishing the work in a peer-reviewed quality journal. Even now, the course were designed for PhD scholars consist of the topics related to the literature survey, paper, and thesis writing. Everybody is having a paper separately for this, I mean, research methodology. And before submitting the publication, you should be aware that the following principle or following guidelines to get a good publications. What are the guidelines? What is the thing that is you should know what are the different type of publications and what are the quality publishers and their conditions, and you have to identify the journals published in the quality publications. And there are some journals which are publishing, just for money. They are called predatory publications. So that also you have to find out, and finding out quality journals. And finally, the plagiarism is very, very important. Types and steps of the plagiarism, that is very important. We can see the detailed information about the publication. So we can classify the publications to two types. One is conventional or non-open access publications. Another one is open access publications. Conventional in the sense that the non-open access, that is that here the article will not be available for complete view, and you can see only the abstract and the title, and based on that, if you want to see the paper, you have to pay for the view charges. Earlier, and you have to subscribe the whole journal, and then you have to get the journal. In IITs, they got the journals, and then you have to refer the journal and get the papers. But nowadays, in the net, you can just see one paper also. So suppose if you want to see a paper, if you click the journal, immediately, if it is a subscription paper or non-open access publications, immediately one will come, you pay $35 or $40 to view the paper. So if you pay $30 or $35, then the whole paper will come, you can access the paper, and you can see the paper, and you can make use of the paper. So this is a conventional non-open access publication papers. Whereas in the case of open access publication papers, the publication cost, actually in the non-conventional, the publication cost is earned by these through subscriptions. So they can meet the expenditure only through subscription. Whereas in the case of open access publication, the publication cost for the open access journals is met by article processing charge, shortly called as APC. So you might have seen that APC in many of these journals, that unless if you suppose you want to publish a paper in the open access publication mode, then you have to pay some $1,000 or $500 or like that, depending on that the journal's standard and other things. So if you pay that APC, then the paper will be published on open access publication. So reader need not pay any money to view the paper, but others have to pay that APC through his research grant, or sometimes the employer. Suppose some of the institutions like IIT and other things, suppose if we get a paper accepted in these open access journals, they pay the amount. So the employer will pay the amount, or the other has to pay from his research grant to meet that charges, APC. So open access is a set of principles and a range of practices. The research outputs are distributed online, free of cost, and there is no barrier. Anybody can see the paper, they can copy the paper, they can review the paper. So there is no restrictions. So it's an open license. There is no copyright form they will ask for these open access publications. See, these open access publications are classified into different types, and there are so many color naming systems. Basically, one thing is open access means you have to pay the charges. That's all. Only there is a slight difference between the gold, green, bronze, and the hybrid open access and the diamond open access. So we'll see one by one. So open access publication. So if it is like a gold open access publication, that you have to pay the charges, and the gold open access journals are listed in the DOAJ, Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ. So this is, if it journal is an open access public journal, completely open access. They will list the journal in the DOAJ. From that you can find it out. Then you have to bear the charges. And green open access is that is that the author can take the paper and he can put it in the website. Only there is a small difference between green open access and gold open access. So in the case of gold open access, you can classify into 3 types. Full open access. The whole journal is published open access. If you take RSC advances, all the papers are open access. Similarly, so there are some journals, completely all the papers will be open access papers. So you can see any paper in the journal. But to publish in that RSC advances, then you have to pay charges for or ACS Omega or RSC advances. For that, you have to pay the charges, APC, then only the paper will be published. There is another journal, type called hybrid open access. That is, suppose you are submitting the paper and the paper is accepted, they'll ask you whether you want to publish it as an open access or through subscription. If you say subscription, they will not ask you to pay them money. And if you say that I want to publish in the open access, they will ask you to pay the open access fee. That is APC, article processing charges. So some of the publications will be open access. That is the publications, what the amount APC, they will be published as open access publications. Whereas some of the publications, that they accepted only through subscription, then they will not be published as open access. So when you want to refer the paper under subscription, then you have to pay the pay-per-view charges. This is called hybrid. The journal has both modes, open access as well as subscription mode. And other one is called delayed open access. That is, this journal for first 1 or 2 years, you cannot view the papers. After 1 or 2 years, depending on the journal's conditions, after 1 or 2 years, the paper will be available for the field viewing. So that is why even in the cinemas, I think you can see some cannot see immediately. Only after a few, maybe after a few months or after 1 or 2 years, it will be cassette will be released. You can see either through Prime Audio or any other things. So the thing is that is called here, just like that, the paper will not be available immediately, but the paper will be available after 1 year or 2 years for as a free access. That is called a delayed open access. I think you might have seen some of the, you might have received mails from ACS Omega. You can refer. These papers are now available freely. You can refer the papers like that. Maybe the papers will be published in 2018 or 2019. So those papers may be available for the free access. So in the case of full open access, again, the author can pay the money or the sponsored non-profit institutions or organizations can pay the money. So there are 2 different types. The hybrid open access, I have given a very clear idea earlier. That is that part of the fund is through subscription and the part is collected through the open access papers. So that is called hybrid open access. In the case of bronze open access, they are free to read the papers, but you cannot there is no license. You cannot reuse the paper. That is, you cannot copy it or you cannot share that paper. And the diamond or platinum open access, normally the author need not pay the money. The academic institutions or the philanthropies or learner societies pay the money. Actually, sometimes when your paper may be accepted in the open access journals, and if you say that I don't have any funds to pay the money, I cannot pay the money, immediately the journal will send you some of the addresses. You can approach these people for getting the financial assistance. So you can approach those people for getting the financial assistance to pay the APC, article processing charges. But there may be some conditions. They may want the copyright and they may want some other things. So like that, that is called diamond or platinum open access. And finally, the black open access. What is the black open access? Of course, there is no journal nowadays black open access. That is, illegally you are seeing the open access publication or the subscription publications. So subscription publications cannot be seen, cannot be copied or cannot be referred. You can refer it, but you cannot completely go through the subscription publications. But there are 2, that is ResearchGate and SciHub. Earlier, in the ResearchGate, suppose if you upload your paper, anybody can see the paper. Now, Similarly, in the Sci-Hub also, if you put the DOI number, immediately you can get the paper. But these people that, publishers, Elsevier, Springer, all the people, they filed a case against Sci-Hub and ResearchGate. And now, even these people, ResearchGate and Sci-Hub also, they are not giving the papers and they are not releasing the papers. And you cannot see the papers in the Sci-Hub as well as a ResearchGate, recent papers. Even in the ResearchGate, they are given an, notice. Unless your paper is open access, don't upload your paper. If your paper is under subscription, if you upload the paper and if somebody refers the paper and if there is a case and you will be fined or you will be penalized like that. So likewise, the ResearchGate, they are putting the restrictions to upload the papers. So you cannot upload all the papers in the ResearchGate. Only if you publish a paper under open access mode, you can upload the paper in the ResearchGate. So this is. And earlier, since these papers are available illegally, and these called black open access. I told you just now that there is even now nowadays no paper is available in the ResearchGate. Subscription papers are available in the ResearchGate or Sci-Hub because they are very strict, and they are not. They are not releasing the papers nowadays. Okay, what are the advantages of open access publications? So one is a continuous publications, though there is no limit on it. There are so many relaxations in the case of open access. In the case of subscription, there may be conditions like 10 figures or 5 figures or this much words and so many things will be there. But there is no limit on the size in the case of open access publications. And the review will be same for both publications, whether it is conventional or open access. The high quality peer review will be there. And the much more important is there is a focus on increasing visibility. This is much more important because everybody can see your paper. Publish a paper in the open access. All people can download your paper and see the paper, and they can refer the paper. So you get more and more citations and also H indexes. So this is possible only if you publish a paper in the open access. Otherwise, suppose I have a paper and in the paper under subscription, cannot download the paper and refer the paper and make use of the paper. So most of the papers which are on subscription will not be or will not be completely gone through. So that is why the focus is there in the increasing, that visibility increases in the case of open access publications. And articles can be widely reused and allows text mining of data and literature. You can collect the literature and then refer that. You can give the data and then refer the paper also. So the reference is given, means citation is given there. So that fellow will get the citation, and citation is more important for an individual. So this APC, how much APC they charge? Actually, so it all depends on the subject and the region. Suppose subject is a very hard subject, biofield and other things, the charge may be very high. And if the journalist from arts and humanities, they may charge even $10 or $20 like that. So here the charge depends on the subject and also the region. Sometimes the developed countries, they charge fully. Underdeveloped countries, they don't charge at all. Actually, there are some underdeveloped countries, they send the publication to the open access journal. The paper will be published without getting any APC. So underdeveloped countries, they don't charge at all. Actually, even if you go to the journal website, they will give which countries are exempted from paying the APC, and which countries they have to pay 50% charges, and which countries they have to pay full amount like that. So the APC depends on the subject as well as the region. And the APC, actually now we think that APC has come only recently. No, it's not like that. And even in 1983, we had a paper in JACS, Journal of American Chemical Society. It's a prestigious journal during that time. So we had a paper accepted. As soon as it was accepted, and we had received a letter from JACS, you pay $30 per page. I think it may be 66 pages or 7 pages. I don't remember exactly. But you pay $30 per page. And then they have sent a letter to us. Immediately we said that we cannot pay the money, and they said okay, no problem, and the paper will be published, but not immediately. It will be published whenever the space is available. That means priority in publications was given by getting the pay charges during those days. So APC, nowadays it is APC, nowadays it was called as page charges. So what happened is after 3 or 4 months the paper was published. So that is why I'm telling you is that journals, they start collecting the money even from the year of 1980 or 83 like that. And APC also can also depend on a journal's impact factor. I think I'll tell you what is an impact factor in the next slide. So suppose the impact factor is high, means the charges APC will be very high. The impact factor is very low, 0.5 or 1, maybe it may be less. So based on that impact factor also the APC is decided. And because in the case of personal individual profile, if you publish a paper with in a journal with an impact factor of about 20, you'll have more credit than with a paper with the impact factor of below 1 or below 2 like that. And some publishers have released estimates on the direct and indirect costs that set their APC. Depending on the cost also they fix the APC. Hybrid open access cost more than gold open access, because in the case of hybrid or the case of gold open access, the charges may be $1,000. In the case of hybrid open access, the charge may be $1,500 or $2,000, because they get money only for the few papers, so they charge more. So particularly this hybrid open access, they get money through 2 ways. That is called double dipping, subscription and also through open access. And nowadays, all publishers adopt this technique and made most of the journals as hybrid. So if you see, mostly 95% of the journals are hybrid journals. So they want money, because nowadays the people who are subscribing have become very, very less. Earlier, the institutions, they subscribe. Nowadays, the institutions, they don't subscribe. They actually subscribe only online subscription, they do it. So that is why most of the journals, they have become hybrid. About 50% of journals, they have become fully open access. Earlier, only few journals will be open access. Nowadays, more than 50% journals have become fully open access. So another thing is that impact factor and citations. That is more important for an individual and also for the journal. So the citation report is very, very important. And suppose you have a paper, if it is cited more times, means your paper is referred by so many people. So they are making use of the paper. That means your publication is very, very useful. So the usefulness of your publications can be judged by the number of citations of the paper. And for individual, your capability of research also is decided by the impact factors. So citation is, suppose my paper is, paper cited more than 500 times or 600 times. So that means that paper is very important for more than 500 or 600 scientists like that. So that is very, very, important. Another thing is, based on the citation only, we get an impact factor. So what is an impact factor? Impact factor is calculated the following way. I think you can see that, suppose we want to calculate the impact factor of 2003 of a journal. How to calculate it? That is, suppose 2018 and 2019 papers, how many times they have been cited in 2020? So 2018, 100 articles might be published in a journal. 2019, 100 articles, another 100 articles might have been published in that particular journal. So these 200 articles, how many times have been cited in 2020? So suppose the citable items, that is that number of times the 200 articles have been cited is 2000, for example. So 2000 times these 200 articles have been cited. That means 2000 by 200, that is 10. That is 10 is the impact factor of 2020 impact factor of the particular journal. So based on that only, that is why whenever a journal is initiated or started, and that particular year you will not get an impact factor. So they will accept without any charges for 2 years or 1 year or 2. After that only they will charge it. What happened is, suppose the journal is released on 2021, the impact factor will come only in 2023. So till then you will not get an impact factor. So that is why till then you will get only site score. How many times it has been cited? They will give site score. So side score will come, but impact factor will not come. So impact factor you have to see only after 2 years. And this is an earlier report. 5% journals impact factors approximately greater than 6. And nowadays the 6 is very, very less. Nowadays most of the journals, actually the chemical engineering journal we published, when we published in 2010 or something, it was only 1.5, that it has come to 16.5. Like that, journals impact factor is increased so much. Catalysis, communications, and catalysis, everything there. Citations increased, and also impact factor also has increased. So, citations and this one, they are very, very important. For an individual, I can actually, whenever you have a doubt, you just put it in that box. I will reply you at the end of this lecture, please. Okay. And for an individual, his profile is, determined only through his citations and H index. I think nowadays you would have seen the Stanford University has released ranking of scientists, the first 2% scientists in the world, top chemist in the world and India, like that. So how they find out the 2% scientists or the ranking of the scientists in the world as well as in India, that is only through their citations and as well as by H index. So based on the H index, they immediately, rank the scientists, and then they say, actually, I used to get mails from research.com and other one that you are in the 9,000 ranking throughout the world, and you are in 130 through in India. India ranking is 130 or 135, like that. You'll get every day, every year we get that one. So we are all in the 2% scientist ranking. So they will release it based on only, this is based on only H index. So that is why it's better to publish a paper and to such a way to get more citations. So how to get more citations? The paper will be cited only if his work is of much useful to others. That is more important. So if it is not useful to others, then it will not be cited. So that is why the earlier some 20-30 years back, actually 1970 or 80, when I was in IIT, that time that citation and this H index were not there. So whenever you want a paper, we go to current contents and then see that abstract and then address of that particular author. We write to the author to send the reprint. So that is called reprint request. The IITs, they will have some postcards called a reprint request. You fill up that journal name and everything, you put the address and put it in the IIT box. They will send to you. They will send for you. And then immediately within 15 days or 20 days, you will get the reprint of the papers. So how many reprint requests you received for a paper? That is called a citation those days. So one of my friend Rakesh, actually, reported a new method of finding out a metal by UV spectroscopy. That time he got more than 200 reprint requests. So it was really a great. So like that, if you get more reprint requests, then your paper is of more important to others. Nowadays, the citation. So how to improve the citations? Better to do research on application-oriented topics. That gives more citation. For example, we published a paper in 1983 in Journal of American Chemical Society. It was a very good paper, and the concept of biprotonic phototautomerism was reported at that time, and later on it was even published in book also in detail. But that paper has got more, only 90 to 100 citations, maybe 100 citations nowadays. But the paper that we reported in 2006, actually we prepared a nano-silver doped TiO2 first time and then reported. So whenever anybody report, preparing the nano-silver and the nano-silver related articles, they refer the paper. Till last year, we got 510 citations. So the citation will improve only that topic is application oriented topic. And there are some Chetpo Romeo website is there. Suppose you want to find out the quality of a journal, whether the journal is open access or not, whether the journal is subscription or whether the journal is listed in QOAT, and who are the publishers, whether it's a standard journal or predatory journal. All these things you can get from this website, Sherpa European website. You just put ACS Omega, you get all the details. You can see all the details. What are the things which are possible by ACS Omega now? If you take this one, Canadian Journal of Chemistry, in that case you can see that who are the publishers, and actually this is having hybrid open access. This is paid open access also available for this journals. So whole information will come from this website. And another thing is regarding this, ethics. I mean, while publications, whether plagiarism is there or this journal is a good journal or predatory. Predatory means not robbing journal. That is robbing your money. So that journal or how to find out it. So there is one, this our in India, SPPU, Savitri Pune University, entrusted the responsibility of journal analysis, and the UGC has established a cell for journal analysis at SPP. So the cell for cell analysis actually, and they formed a consortium called that Consortium for Academic and Research Ethics. So in the CARE they are given the conditions, which journal, what are the conditions for a journal to be a good journal or can be referred, I mean can be listed in the UGC list or not. For that they are given group A, group B, group C and other things. So you have to send all the details, journal title, information, name of the publishers and everything, ISSN, ESSN, all the information if you send in, then they will approve it, and then you can see that whether it is a UGC list or not. And the thing is, what is a predatory journal? Predatory in the sense, that in the Tamil it is called a robbing. I mean, that robbing means that robbing your money. So they want only the money. Once if you pay the money, they publish whatever the garbage you are giving to them. So they don't even send for the peer review. Don't even bother very much about the standard of the publication and other things. So, and before submitting a paper, you have to find out whether journal is a predatory journal or that this is actually a real good journal or not. So in that case, what happens is that you have to check the website. So suppose to find out whether it is a journal is a predatory or this one good journal, check the website thoroughly and check whether journal is a member of this DOAJ, that is COPE, I mean this Open Access Scholarly Publication Association, or scientific, technical and medical documents publishers like that. And check the journal's contact informations and see the editorial board, who are there in the editorial board, whether the process are really eminent process or really work process, and take a look at their peer review process and publication timeliness. Read through past issues of the journals. Actually, when you go to the home page of the journal, all these comes, this information comes immediately. How much time it takes for the first decision, second decision, how much time it takes for the publications, what is the, I mean, who are the editorial board members, everything will come in the journal website. So these predatory journals, you have to find it out, because most of the journals actually they give some people as a real great scientist as a board members, I mean editorial board members, because really they are not real scientists. So they are given address, that address may be wrong address. So many things will be there. So you have to find out that predatory journal and avoid publishing in the predatory journal. So how to find that a good journal for your publications? So you just prepare the paper and you want to submit the paper. You want to find out the suitable journal. There are so many websites. For example, there is an Elsevier journal finder. Similarly, Springer they have like Jane, Springer journals such as all these are there. So just take the abstract title. Actually, when you open the journal, Elsevier journal finder, they'll ask you to type this title or that the paste the title and paste abstract and also the keywords. So once you give the keywords, abstract and the title, immediately they suggest some 10 or 15 Elsevier journals. So similarly, you can get journal from Springer and journal from other publishers also. Then from that you can choose any one of the journal and submit your papers. And one more thing which is basically required is testing of plagiarism. That is important in publication as well as in thesis. Nowadays, everybody knows even if you submit the thesis, before submitting the thesis, you have to give clearly, I mean, that plagiarism report. Otherwise, the thesis will not be accepted for the processing. So, likewise, plagiarism, because earlier the plagiarism was not, I mean, very serious because it is not possible to check the plagiarism also those days. So now you can easily check through, I mean, internet, and so there are so many software to check the plagiarism or similarities. So there are so many rules, UGC regulations 2008, levels of plagiarism, penalties of plagiarism, and prevention of plagiarism. These are some of the types of plagiarism. What we do is, whenever we refer the paper, we just copy it and paste it in our paper. That is should not be done. So copy and pasting will give the rise to the plagiarism. So you refer the paper, you read the paper and grasp the meaning of the paper and write it on your own. So that is the thing that you have to require. Otherwise, you can refer the paper also. And then final changing, replacing the word, sharing somebody's work, and self-plagiarism sometimes it happens. Suppose you are using the same experimental, I mean, procedure, and the application may be different. You want to publish the papers. So you cannot give the same experimental setup in the second paper. Already you have given in the first paper. So if you give it in the second paper, it comes as a self-plagiarism. What you have to do is you refer the paper and then say a few words about that one. That is a thing that you have to do it. The same thing should not be repeated, or even that figures also earlier published in your own paper should not be repeated in the second paper or the third paper. So that is called a self-plagiarism and improper citing. So whenever you refer the paper, you have to cite it. You don't forget to cite the paper, because citing only, suppose if you have taken something from the paper, if you have cited the paper, that it can be excused, then you can modify. And purchasing and remix, all this remixing, everything as a types of plagiarism. See, self-plagiarism, that is, as I told in the beginning, the experimental sections, materials, method, characterization. This you cannot avoid. The thing is that you can give in one paper, the other paper, you can refer the paper and just change the language, and only if you give few lines about that characterization and methods. So nowadays you can see only a paper will not give full detail about the experimental methods if it is second time. They will give only a brief account of that one, and then they will ask you to refer the earlier papers. So, and the result discussions avoid repeating the figures. If there is a necessity, get permission from the publishers to repeat the figures. Suppose I have a figure, and that figure I want to publish again in the other paper. Suppose if I have the figure in RSC advances, and I want to give the paper in catalysis communications, then I have to write to the RSC advances for getting the permission to repeat that figure in the catalysis communication. This sometimes requires, maybe necessity, because sometimes the referee may ask you to give the same, figure, characterization figure in the second paper also. So in that case, without getting the permission, you should not repeat it. But permission can be easily given. Actually, even after 10 years, there was a problem for us in that RSC advances and catalysis communications. So after 10 years, we have returned to RSC advances. Yes, given the permission, immediately we have sent the permission to the catalysis communication. That was rectified. So that is why if you want to repeat your figure in the second paper or the third paper, you get the permission from the earlier journals. So this is actually, prevention of plagiarism, the main objective given by the UGC. So these are things, research papers, thesis, chapter, books, dissertations, and all these things you have to see that plagiarism check is required for all these things. And plagiarism check is not required for this assignment, team papers, project report, essays. This is guidelines of UGC, coursework and other things. Some of them are accepted, some quotations, some references, or generic terms, all these are exempted from the plagiarism. These are the levels of plagiarism reported by the UGC. And that is 10% means 0 level, 10 to 40, level 1, 40 to 60, level 2, and above 60, level 3. And for level 0, there is no penalty at all. In the case of student, if you submit a paper, In the case of level 1, he will have to revise the script and then again resubmit it. Level 2 means the student will be debarred from submitting the revised manuscript for a period of 1 year. And level 3 means the student will be registration will be cancelled. So remember that. That is why whenever you publish a paper, whenever you want to publish a paper, first thing is you have to check the plagiarism, then only you have to submit the paper. Without checking the plagiarism, you will submit the paper. If the level is about 40 to 60%, the editor will write to your institution to debar you. So that is why it is very, very dangerous. Similarly, for the academic also, I mean, if you submit which is level 0 means no penalty, 10 to 40%, level 1 means he is asked to withdraw the. In the case of 40 to 60, he will not be allowed to be a supervisor for a period of 2 years. So above 60%, he will not be allowed to be a supervisor for a period of 2 years, and he will be denied with 2 successive annual increment also. So this is EPG guidelines. But the guidelines, there are so many things in consultation with the government, they can also change it. So how to reduce the plagiarism? Consult the teacher, plan your paper, take effective notes, cite. Citation is very important. You cite the paper that you refer, make it clear who did what, and know how to paraphrase, and analyze and evaluate your sources. Similarly, that proper references whenever is required, and provide references even for a photograph and diagram pictures. While paraphrasing, make sure you are rearranging, replacing few words. So all these things actually nowadays, when the initially, if you check it, if it is 40%, there are some agencies. If you give to the agencies, they will modify it and then they will completely change the words and put different words, and they may reduce plagiarism. So nowadays everything is by money. So even in the foreign countries, what they do is after preparing the paper, they send to this particular agency. They do even for the money everything, and then after that they give a certificate also. And then while getting the paper for the review, the certificate is also attached with them. Okay, find out the percentage of plagiarism, percentage of similarity. There are so many softwares. So one of the software is Turnitin, another one is Authenticate, like that. So these are the different softwares: Turnitin, Authenticate, Plagiarism Detect, Academic Plagiarism, Blackboard, and Grammarly. So these are some of these ones. Based on that, actually Turnitin is the one which is very, very valuable. But most of the people, I mean, only higher institutions, they may have the Turnitin. But other institutions, they have Authenticate is also equally good. So why it is Turnitin is better in the sense they use vast amounts of web content. So that is why they rely more on Turnitin than on this other one. So normally in our institution we have the Authenticate. So Authenticate is also good. Based on the Authenticate also you can revise the paper and send it. So here gives a detail about the Turnitin. It's a web-based plagiarism detection software. So it will not correct the plagiarism. Remember that. It can tell you how much similarity is there. What are the percentage of similarity, or what are the percentage of plagiarism in that particular paper. So only from that you have to do that. So major databases covering Turnitin. Actually, the Turnitin covers all these databases. So all this, everything is covered by the Turnitin. Actually, this is actually similar figure. So you are actually taking the paper, after completing the paper, you are sending to Turnitin. Turnitin searches every internet sources publication similarity and give back to this one, and it comes to you, report the delivery. Then from that you can finally change it. Actually, this is more or less a report from Turnitin. Let's see that they give that 18% similarity is there, and 18%, how 18% comes? They give the papers. In which paper is it 13%, like that? So this is a paper, we have 13%. Similarly, that 2% from internet sources and 17% from publications and 13% from this particular paper. So actually this paper may be of your paper, so you might have written the same words and other things. So you can change it. You can change the word, or you can change the sentences and reduce the 13 to, 5% or even less than that. So the total amount will be less than 10%. So now that's all about this, plagiarism check and open access publications. Now we'll see scientific paper writing. So scientific paper writing, you can say, so the publication, very, very required to obtain the academic qualifications. So even today, the old adage says publish or perish remains valid. So research paper is very, very important. How to write a scientific paper? So we'll see some of these guidelines for writing a scientific paper. What are the general formats? The general format is, this is the general format. Title, abstract, introduction, material methods, result discussion, conclusions, or acknowledgements. Speak briefly about each one and then say how to organize a paper. So title, actually everybody thinks that title, any title we can give. No, the title should be self-explanatory. That is more important. Suppose if you give a title like a biology lab report, it tells the reader nothing. He will not refer the paper. So once somebody sees the title, immediately they will have the tendency to see the paper or to see the abstract and see the full paper. That should be there. So you can see the next title, low temperature deposition and crystallization of ruthenium oxide TiO2 on cotton fabric for efficient solar photodegradation of orthotoluene. So this title exactly what researcher has done by stating three things: the environmental factors, the parameter that was measured, and the specific catalyst and compound used for the study. So the title should be, if the catalyst was used for several applications, you can put as multiple applications instead of giving one applications. So the title should be self-explanatory. Then only the people will refer the paper and refer the abstract and go to the paper, you'll get more citations. So what is an abstract? Abstract is a concise digest of content of the paper. So it is also self-explanatory without referring the paper. Once you see the abstract, we will have the tendency to see the paper. So the purpose of the paper, important material methods, summarized results, and major conclusions. So that to be presented in 3 words. So here and extract most important point from each section. You have that material method section, you have the result discussion section and conclusion section. Extract some important points and then put it in the abstract. So the 2 questions should be answered properly in the case of abstract. What has been done? What are the main findings? So should have the answer for these 2 things in the abstract. And read the abstract of some of the published papers to get an idea about it. So introduction is of prime importance in grabbing readers' attention, because whenever we get a paper for review, we go through the introduction. Based on the introduction, we can judge the paper, quality of the paper. So what is the main things of the introduction? Background, describing what is known on the subject. That is why I told you before starting your research work, you have to go to the literature survey. What is the particular field? So what is not known? What elements are still subject to controversy? And what is the exact gap in the knowledge? So all these things should come in the introduction. Objectives, and cite the exact parameter that you can plan to measure. Cite the type of patient. Actually, this is a clinical one. The 4 things are very important: significance of topic, information gap in the available literature associated with the topic, a literature review in support of the key questions, subsequently develop the purposes and objectives and hypotheses. So all these things are very, very important. And you can see actually in the reasons that prompted you to undertake a research should be very clear. That is, aim of your study should be very clear in the introduction. What for you are doing this work? Scope of your work should be stated very clearly with appropriate references. So as far as possible, it should be very short. Each sentence should have a meaning. Otherwise, without meaning, don't write any sentence, because it's limited to 1 to 1.5 pages. You can see more of the references will be in the introduction chapters. More than 80% references are put in this section. So conclude your introduction with a solid statement of your purpose and your hypothesis. Of course, this is the easiest one, materials methods, because what you are going to give is nothing but what you have done in the lab. So the procedure and other things you are going to give, but that should be done very clearly, because if it is incomplete, then it will be, reviewers will reject it. because in the case of organic synthesis, this is more important. Actually, sometimes they don't give you proper conditions, but once it is repeated, they will not get the particular compound also. That is why there are so many volumes of organic synthesis. Actually, even before the synthesis of a particular compound, there is a team which refer the paper and then do it again and then confirm the formation of the compound and repeat it in the organic synthesis, volume. So actually, you have to give a brief summary. Sometimes if the details are already been published in the earlier paper, in your earlier paper, you can give a brief summary with the reference to the relevant publications, because you cannot repeat it. If you repeat it, then self-plagiarism will come into the picture. So result discussion, this is a lifeline of your paper. So the lifeline, that is, you have to give a proper figures and illustrations and tables, everything in the result discussion, and discuss it, interpret it and discuss it. And this, what you have to take is avoid crowded plots using only 3 or 4 data sets per figure. So don't put 10 lines in that plot, figure, 10 lines or 20 lines. So a crowded plot will not be good, and you cannot easily for any information from this one. So another thing, put clear symbols, never include long boring tables. The tables also should have a limited number of data, not like that 30 lines or 40 lines and giving more and more data. And pay attention also not to include too many illustrations, and they do not lose interest. So the referee should not lose the interest in going to the paper. And another important factor, figure and table legends must be self-explanatory. So the figure caption and table caption should be self-explanatory, give full detail about it. So all tables and figures must be accompanied by narrative text. Each and every figure should have a detail about the figure, and also the discussion should be there. And sometimes you may get a negative result. The negative results also should be put and explain why you are getting the negative results. That is more important. Sometimes that also is more valuable for your paper to be accepted. And conclusions, that whatever you have done, what conclusions you have drawn from the results and discussions, that is more important. Sometimes the common error in the section is, most of the people, what they do is, they repeat the abstract in the concluding section. No, it should not be there. So it should be a clear scientific justification for your work in this section, and indicate the uses and extension. Actually, what further study can be done by using this, what for it can be useful for the other one. So everything should be stated in the conclusion. Even you can suggest future experiments and point out those that are underway also in the case of conclusions. So acknowledgements, everybody knows that you have to acknowledge that funding agency and the institution, all these things. And literature also, everybody knows about it. Okay, we have seen in detail about this. Sections that abstract, title, everything. But you want to start writing the papers. Now what you are doing is, in the laboratory you might have done some experiments. From the experiments you got some results. So what you have to do is prepare the figure and tables first. So that is the first thing to be done for writing the manuscript. Most of the people, what they do is they write the title and then abstract. Don't follow that abstract title and the title abstract introduction like that. Prepare the figure and table first. And after preparing the figure and table, write some narrative, detail about each figure and tables and all these things. Then write the methods because of what we have done. So you can write the method and materials, and then you go for the result discussion. So write a few paragraphs about each figure. So in the case of, sometimes they give a number of figures, but explanation will not be there, or discussion will not be there, but that should not be done. So each should have some narrative one, and also discussion should be there. And finalize the result discussion before writing that. Completely you finalize the result discussion before writing the introduction, because introduction, actually the discussion is insufficient. You cannot write a proper introduction. So how can you objectively demonstrate scientific significance of your work in introduction? So you have to complete the discussion, result discussion, then come for the conclusion. After result discussion, come for the conclusion. So based on the result discussion, what you have concluded, you write a conclusion. Then next one only, you are writing the introduction. So in the introduction, you can write now, because already you are very familiar with the work that results discussion, everything you know that. So now you can write the introduction, putting so many references for your result discussion as well as for your earlier literature, everything. So now you can write the introduction. Then finally come for the abstract. So abstract is, how to write the abstract. So start writing the abstract. So after writing the abstract, you go for the title. What is a descriptive title, concise title based on what you are given in the paper. Then you select the keyword for indexing. So finally, you can go to acknowledgements and the reference already you have quoted all the references, you have listed references. So this is the basic steps, 11 steps to organizing your manuscript. So this is the basic steps for scientific paper writing. Once you start writing the paper like this, your paper will leave a good value. And after completion of the paper, the essential requirement is plagiarism check of the paper. Immediately send your paper for authenticate check or Turnitin check and find out the similarity value. Then you correct everything to reduce the similarity. Then submit the paper for the journal. So that's all about the scientific paper writing. So what we have seen is, open access publication and scientific paper writing. So thank you very much. And this is actually, a place very near to our Chidambaram called Pichabaram and a tourist spot. And it has the largest mangrove forest in the world, second largest mangrove forest in the world. And the very beautiful one. And you can enjoy that. This is an ecotourism spot in South India. So many birds are there recorded. And this is a forest which saved the people nearby area in Pichavaram or Port Novo during the tsunami times. Nagapattinam and other places, so much disaster, but here it is not the case. The people have been saved by only this because of the largest mangrove forest. So this is our Chidambaram Nataraja Temple Golden Group. And thank you very much for your patient hearing. And if you have any doubt, you can put it in the chat box so that I can listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So now it is the time for questioning. If anybody has any query, so ask to sir. Anybody?
Somebody raised the hand during that lecture.
If anybody has to ask, unmute their speaker, mobile, or unmute themselves and ask the question. Anybody? No question.
If you want any clarification, they can send to my mail also. I can reply. No problem.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, you are audible. Yes, ask.
Myself, Dr. Pankaj Kumar Singh from IIT BHU. Sir, your presentation was really very nice. My question is regarding the writing the chapter of any book and writing a paper. How both of these are having difference in writing?
Yeah, writing the paper, the guidelines which I have given now. But writing the chapters actually, because you are collecting literature and writing the chapters, right? Hello.
Yes.
Do you want to particularly concentrate on plagiarism check or generally?
Generally, what should I check in writing the chapter of any book?
Write a chapter of any book, you have to collect the literature from that one and then give more or less like a review. No? It's like review. For that, the plagiarism check, I think, it will not come, most probably.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody?
So, good morning. This is Dr. Sandhya.
Good morning.
Thank you for your
Yeah.
presentation, first of all, sir. It was wonderful. So I have a question. Sir, how do we usually organize a review article, sir? Before writing it down, how do we start the review article and how do we have to organize it?
In the case of review article, first thing that your familiarity in the particular subject. So sometimes
sir.
the review article is written, suppose if we publish a paper in sulfated titania and 10 papers, then I can think of writing a paper, a review on the sulfated titania like this. So basically, actually, once you are familiar with either by research or by reading also, it's also possible by reading also. So once you are familiar on the particular topic, then you collect the literature. Minimum of 100 papers you collect it, minimum. Okay.
Okay.
And go through the papers and organize it, and then you can write the review.
Okay. Any organizing guidelines, sir?
Organizing guidelines, first thing is that you have to here, not like the scientific paper, here you have to, first thing that you have to find is a title.
Okay.
So based on the title, and suppose if you want to give a geolites review means, and that geolites, what are the types of geolites there, and which type of, there are applications like that. On the types of geolites, there are applications, there are industrial applications like that. You classify that individually. Similarly, if you take a photocatalysis means, what are the different type of photocatalysis, what are the different type of application, like that you have to classify that in the different title. Title and collect it, form on the literature. Actually, it's better to refer some of the reviews earlier. That I can tell you about all these things, but if you refer some 3-4 reviews, we can have a clear idea about it.
Okay. Okay,
actually,
sir.
we have done 2-3 reviews on photocatalysis, heterogeneous photocatalysis and homogeneous photocatalysis. We got some reviews. So, and that what we have done is, what are the different type of photocatalysts and what are the different type of applications, like that we have gone through.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay. Fine. Fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, anybody?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, audible. Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my question is that I am not working right now in any organization, but I am PhD from IIT Delhi and I want to write papers, research paper. But I am confused at which kind of papers I can write.
Sir,
Hello.
Hello.
You want to write the paper, right? That now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But you have
But
completed.
right now,
how much is it? Depending on the work, na. Suppose you have. Hello.
Sir, I have completed my PhD.
Okay.
But
so after completing the PhD, you want to write the paper now.
Yes, sir.
No, actually, it's better now. Chapter wise, you can decide for your paper.
Okay,
actually,
sir. But sir,
in my students PhDs, normally what we do is, for each chapter we allocate a paper, because that more or less something that exact material will be there in each chapter for a paper.
okay, sir. But sir, right now I am not working in any organization. So which corresponding address shall I mention and how can I check my plagiarism?
If you're, there you put some organization, corresponding address, you have to put some organization, right? Normally, without organizations, that normally they don't. I don't think that they accept the papers or they, process the paper and other things. Just to put, your earlier you can put your IIT, no problem. You did PhD at IIT, where you did
yes,
PhD?
Sir. IIT Delhi, sir.
Okay, you put that IIT Delhi, no problem.
Okay, sir.
Because already the work was done in IIT Delhi, right?
Right, sir.
Okay, you can put an IIT Delhi, and then later on, while at the time of acceptance, if you are posted in some of the institutions, you can change the address. No problem.
Okay, sir. How can I any site where we can check the plagiarism? Because and plagiarism for my paper, because I'm not working in any organization. I'm at home right now. So how can I check?
After writing the paper, we have to send for plagiarism check. Some institutions they have, and some institutions actually in some of the institutions, if you pay the money, They will check and then give back to you. No problem.
Okay, okay. Sir, so apart from my PhD, if I want to write any other kind of papers from other review paper, like, so can I also write for this one?
Yes, yes. Right.
So for that too, I have to give the IIT address.
Yeah, presently because some organization you have to put. You put the IIT address because already you are in IIT, so
Yes,
nobody
sir.
can question you.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Valuable information, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Okay. Again, anybody have any query?
Thank you, sir. Very intellectual lecture.
Okay, sir. So I think there is nobody is here. So all the participants understood your session, Miss, your lecture. So thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the
Actually,
opportunity given to me. Thank you, sir. Once again, thank all the authorities. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Thank you. Actually, this talk was very inspirative, and sir has given detailed information about different aspects of research, which is very beneficial to our participants. Sir has told us that earlier there were only books to read and collect the literature, but now there is Google. There is Google to find everything. Now it is easy to survey or collect the data and literature. In his talk, he suggested there are two types of publications. One is conventional publication and open access publication. Conventional publications means non-open access, where each viewer has to pay for to view the paper. But for author, there is no any processing fees. But in open access publication, processing fees is required to author, but it is free of cost for the viewers. So open access publications means papers are easier to view to the viewers. Main aspect is the plagiarism. So sir shares his knowledge about the plagiarism, and plagiarism is very important to publish any paper. And also sir suggested different types of plagiarism you can use to check your papers, your writing. Okay. I think everybody listen carefully so that the session become interactive session. Now I turn to vote of thanks. Gurnoli sir, are you listening? Gurnoli sir, so now I turn to vote of thanks. Okay, I am very thankful to our patrons, management of our college and institution for their inspiration and guidance to organize this faculty development program. I am thankful to our principal, Dr. Dilip Badwaik sir, for his cooperation to organize this faculty development program. On the behalf of our institution, I am very much thankful to the research person, Professor Swaminathan, of today's session for his wonderful guidance on open access publication and scientific paper writing. He has very deep knowledge on research paper writing. Thank you very much. Again, I will meet tomorrow. We will meet tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. with new session and new resource person. The topic of tomorrow's session is intellectual property rights by Dr. Mangala Hirwade. Now, with kind permission of organizer, I declare that today's session is over. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Swaminathan sir. Thank you. Okay, bye. So tomorrow we will meet at the same time 10:30 for new session with new resource person. Okay, thank you.
Yes. না ওটা আমি করলাম না কি হবো না ওটাই আর আসলে হবো না কিছু হবো না প্রতিবাদ যারা করে আপনার কথা আছে না জানো কি কয় হে ও এটাও না দেয় আপনার একটু অন আছে নাই আমার নাই আমারটা তো নাই একবার আমার ভিডিও আমার তো আছে চলতেছ মারা গেছে আমার কত জায়গা এই যে আমার দুইটা এই যে আনমিউট করা ভাষা বুঝতেছি আমরা দেখতে কি আছে এই যে আসল